Today we're going to talk about FSBOs, for sale by owner. Does it affect a homeowner in a positive or negative way, or are you guys neutral to it? If a homeowner decides to sell their home on their own, there's pros and cons to it actually. So I'm not saying don't do it, but Amy, you had a FSBO where the homeowner ended up coming to you as a real estate agent saying, you know what, Amy, let's go list my house, because the buyer, what? Right?
You need to put a cue card.
It's okay.
That's an outtake.
That's
No,
part of
I
the
was
edit.
going to say it's hard for a seller not to feel like a know-it-all these days with the internet and all these websites, and they
Right.
think that they can do it.
That's right.
I would think that I could do it if I didn't go into this industry. Now I see there's so much more involved, and there's so much more that you could lose. But before I became an agent, I totally would have been a know-it-all.
Right.
FSBO.
FSBO, right? For sale by owner. So, Rachel, when a homeowner comes to you and says, I would like to list my house with you, what are the things that sometimes I say to myself, oh my God, if they were doing this by themselves, they would have never been able to push back on this item, as far as the negotiating goes, especially with the home inspection. Right? So if they're selling their house, let's say for instance, as a for sale by owner, and they go to their attorney and say, well, this is the home inspection and this is what the buyer is requesting for me to repair. The attorney is simply going to take a look at all of the things that hold up in court and say, well, this is environmental. Well, this is structural. Well, this is mechanical. Well, this is termite. Well, this is, those things maybe you should address, Mr. Homeowner. But you, as a real estate agent, are supposed to be there during the home inspection, sense the tone, right? Or take a look, even if you're not there during the home inspection, because the seller, if you're not representing if you're representing the seller, you're really supposed to give the buyer and the agent their privacy. Right. But let's say you represent the buyer, you're there for the home inspector.
Always.
The home inspection, right?
100% of the time.
But as a listing agent, we're talking about FSBOs, right?
Right.
You read the home inspection and you're like, wait a minute, let's go take a look at what he means about this. And you go around with the homeowner and say, well, this sentence is, what is the word I'm looking for? The homeowner used conflated. The sentence sometimes in a home inspection can be conflated, right? So then you would push back as their agent.
It's easy to be taken advantage of when you don't know your rights or what you are entitled to, and you don't have a professional there to tell you.
And what to push back on. Even if you don't have any rights to push back on, sometimes you're still going to push back and say, the market is pretty hot, guys. I'm not doing this, right? So it's up to the buyer to say, to either push back or accept. That's the part where a for sale by owner doesn't have as far as advice goes. That's the part where I don't feel an attorney can give that kind of advice to push back up to a certain point where they're not coming in the house. They don't know the house.
Yeah, they don't know. They see the MLS sheet, maybe. I always give it to them.
And the seller's disclosure. Okay.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. And as a listing agent, you have that relationship with the attorney. And that's how things, get worked out in the client's best interest, seller or buyer. But if someone's just selling the house on their own, I went to a listing, a for sale by owner appointment a couple years ago, height of the market. And the gentleman said, well, I'm a professional electrician. So he showed me he's like, everything's been upgraded. He said, I know that everything's selling. I don't really need to pay a realtor for this. there were about 5 or 6 different major things that I saw just from that visit. It was a go-see. That's all it was, a quick go-see that would prevent that house from selling like it was.
But you knew that the buyer, the future buyer with the home inspector would go to town with the home inspection on that. Even if a buyer, remember guys, as is doesn't hold up in court. As is condition, it does not hold up in court. If there are any structural issues where all of a sudden the home inspector finds that, possible structural or environmental, that has to be addressed.
Yeah, and this house, the owner was unable to sell it on his own and in fact withdrew it from the market.
Oh, wow.
It didn't go to, I followed it,
But sometimes for sale by owners do work.
They do.
Sometimes people make out very well.
They do.
And it all depends on, how you go about it as a homeowner. But 90% of the time, it doesn't work out. And now you've been on the market, and now everyone thinks, okay, now he has it listed. Well, what happened? What's wrong with the house? You have to be careful.